The hospice doctors are in a support role to our teams that go out to the homes, nursing homes, or wherever the patient lives. We're overseeing the medical part of their care. Sometimes we may actually make a visit, a home visit, but more often than not, we're supporting the team by being available 24/7 to give orders or write prescriptions for comfort medications that may be required, to coordinate the care with the community physicians if they're involved, and to oversee the medical care plan. Patients at the end of life, patients who are no longer curable with medical care, still need great medical care, and they need a lot more than that. They need more than just medications and a medical care plan. They need every kind of support for themselves and their family, whether it be emotional, spiritual, practical help. But we doctors realize that they still need attentive medical care. So what we're going to tend to focus on in terms of the medical aspects of the case are those things that will help them to feel better and to feel better soon, so they can have the very best quality of life possible in whatever time they have remaining. And so it was really working with patients that drew me toward hospice. I could tell that when patients got to that point in their illness where our medical treatment was no longer going to prolong their life, that a lot of times they were getting a lot of things done to them that were not helpful anymore and was actually making them sicker. And to be able to sit down with a patient, be honest with them about their illness and what they can expect, to explore their goals, to find out what they really want, and then to make sure that's what they get, would allow us sometimes to stop some treatments that not only weren't helping, but were actually making them feel worse. And then to focus on getting them comfortable and feeling the best they can, and then bringing in the whole team to support them and their family so that they could have the very best quality of life they could. I found that to be something we could always do. So we can't always cure somebody, but we can always comfort them and support them having the best possible quality of life. One of the things I love about our volunteers is that that's the gift they bring. They bring the gift of their own humanity, of being themselves. More than anybody else on the hospice team, the volunteer is on an equal footing with the patient. They're not there in a professional role. They're not the doctor giving the doctor's orders or the nurse who's assessing their medical condition. They're a fellow human being there to support them, and that is so powerful. Well, I'd like our hospice volunteers to know that regardless of what kind of work you do for this organization, you are making a huge difference. But everything volunteers do is a tremendous help to us. Volunteers who help us write thank you notes, volunteers who help us make phone calls, volunteers who help us file away important papers, volunteers that serve on our boards, volunteers that serve on our committees, volunteers that help us put on events and raise money so we can provide care that's not covered by Medicare, and care then for children who are taken care of charitably, or to provide more bereavement care. Whatever our volunteers do, it's special and it makes a big difference here.
At Hosparus, we work as an interdisciplinary group composed of a nurse, a social worker, a chaplain. Can also include our CNAs, certainly can include volunteers, and the physicians. Sometimes our medical director at Hosparus works with our team, then other times we work with the community physicians. As the nurse, I see my main role as helping patients and families understand the disease process, help them to understand what's going to happen, to try to take away the fear a little bit about what's happening with good information, and certainly symptom management. We try really hard to make sure that a patient is as comfortable as they choose to be, and that families know how to give the medicines and understand. At Hosparus, I'm so lucky to work with such a great team of people. We really do communicate well, and we really meet the patients and families where they're at. We walk into all kinds of situations. They're not always pretty, but we really try to honor and respect everybody's way of doing things. Everybody gets to choose how they kind of proceed through this part of their journey, and we are not there to take over, but we're just there to help guide them. The stories inspire me. I love working with adults in the home setting, and that's the role that I have. And every story, every family is different. I have seen and heard the most remarkable things over the years from patients and their families. I've been at Hosparus for 20 years, and what inspires me is that I know I'm on this planet to make a difference in people's lives and to help ease the fear, not take away the fear, because that's almost impossible, but to ease the fear of death and dying. I've been able to help people take those baby steps that are necessary when someone is getting close to the end of their life, to make them understand what's going on and to feel a little bit more prepared, I think, for that final loss. At Hosparus, we use our volunteers in a wide variety of ways. Some of my favorite volunteers are ones that I know by sight and by name, and oftentimes I've taken care of some of their family members. A lot of our volunteers come to us after a loss. That whole interdisciplinary group is really, really important in how we care for our patients and families. This particular volunteer, he just comes in and knows how to sit with people, be present with people, share stories, and really make a difference. What I'd like the volunteers to know about working with the team is that they're a very big part of our team, a very important part of our team, and to always feel free to contact us, to let us know what they're seeing in the home, and then if they want feedback from us, to let us know that they want feedback from us so that we can work together to meet this patient and family's goals. It does take a group effort to help someone go through the end of their life. It's not something that one person can do by themselves. If we work together, we can work at the physical level, the psychological level, the emotional level, the spiritual level, the companionship level, to help people live to the end of their life the way they choose to live. I think one of the most important things to know as a volunteer or any care provider, anyone who provides direct care to patients and families, is that it's really necessary for you to maintain good boundaries. It's a healthy approach. It's important to be kind and provide good service and care to families, but you also need to take good care of yourself.
Hosparus plays a part in the end of life. As a CNA with Hosparus, the most valuable thing for me is to try to give as much quality life. And I like to be that person to make the person comfortable, fulfill the needs for not only the client, but the family too. Our role as CNAs are, we give baths, we do light housework, we can take pets out, we do skin care if it's a wound that's something we can dress per nurse, then we can dress a wound and we can clean that area for them. We can prepare a meal, we socialize, and it's just really whatever that need is for the time you're in there, and keep them with as much dignity and their lifestyle as possible. To not even be able to clean yourself is very personal. So with me, to be able to come in with a friendly face, wear happy clothes, and be happy, but then I know sometimes they don't want to be happy, then I'm quiet. So the vital part of me is to know and feel a person day by day. But with the CNA, we're like a family member, and they tell us stuff, and I do tell my clients a lot, well, do you mind if I speak to your hospice nurse or whoever? And they'll say, no, you can do that. So I keep good communication with my team. Volunteers are very vital for us. someone to come in and just talk with them, visit. Really and truly, it's a very important thing. So then we look at the part of the caregiver. They may need to get out. Sometimes you may just need to go in another room. But you don't want to leave your loved ones, so you want somebody there just to be there. They are very, very important to that person that's probably lonesome. And to cross over at the end of life, I'm sure they're afraid. So to have someone here just to touch your hand would be wonderful. I'm 100% wanting to see volunteers. So many people that don't realize how important that is at the end of life for just to see a happy face. And if you put people together that's similar, say veterans, or just plain old mothers, it would be great. Because to have someone to talk to that's not a family member, sometimes a volunteer becomes the best friend. So welcome aboard.
Well, I'm a chaplain with an adult team and with a pediatric team. As a chaplain, my task is to check on the spiritual condition and the spiritual needs of a patient and their families. Sometimes it seems like there are no needs initially, and then they tend to emerge as we go along, or it tends to develop as things progress. Primarily, what we do as chaplains here at Hospice is try to be this presence of warmth and acceptance that makes it safe, makes it okay for them to talk about the things they need to talk about. The specter of one's own dying puts enough pressure on a person that they're going to deal with the issues they need to deal with. They don't need me to come in and bring those issues. I come in like a blank slate, and they're going to project what they need to project and talk about what they need to talk about. There are just so many spiritual issues. Forgiveness, blessing. Who do you want to bless? Who do you want to see? Alienation. There's sometimes people are just alienated, and there are things that they deeply regret. And they need somebody who can hear that. I take delight in remembering the patient. At the beginning of the time with us, she'd said what she wanted was to hold her family's faces in front of her and memorize every freckle on their face and every fleck of color in their eyes. And near the end of her life, she kissed me on the cheek and said she got what she wanted. The team meetings are about what is it that they've said they wanted and need, and how do we get them those things. Initially, the most important thing to them is getting relief. It'd be pain control, it'd be symptom management. Those things really matter. After that, there are issues that may need to be resolved. The most important thing I've learned at Hospice is that what really matters is that we love people. We do it practically with medication and social work skills and counseling. We do it with attitude. We do it with presence. Sometimes we do it with silence. Oh, there's so much that volunteers bring to the table. To be there for an hour or two and give somebody the chance to get out. I see someone she would die rather than not take care of her mother. But she herself is kind of dying on the vine because she's been doing it so long. And a volunteer who would come in and sit with her mom for a couple hours, even while her mother's asleep, to see it as a practical way to help somebody get out, know that their loved one is cared for, while they themselves can take a deep breath. I have the spiritual care volunteers, and I try to match up folks who, well, one I think of who just loves to read, and matched her up with somebody who's very articulate and also loves to read, and they have wonderful conversations. I think the role of the volunteer is only kind of limited by imagination. I think about my pediatric work. One parent said to me once, and she was in an awful situation of having lost one child and was going to lose the other. Because of the nature of their illnesses, she said to me one day, some days I think I'm the only person in the world who loves my kids. Well, having a volunteer who would go in and love her kids with her, just to be a friend, sounding board, somebody who clearly loves her children, that would be an immense help to that young woman. I want the volunteers to know how much their care is needed. And the volunteers are one more human being in what can be a very lonely and devastating time. So there are just so many things that make a difference, just so many things. I think volunteers make more of a difference than they know. They may go see somebody and it's like, somebody had the time for me. It gives them self-esteem, it gives them importance. It says, you matter. To the end of your life and beyond, you matter.
Here's how I explain it to the patients. Most of us know what a nurse does. Most of us know what a chaplain does. You know, you got your medical and you got your spiritual. My role as a social worker at Hosparus, I see as providing psychosocial support. Some of the things I do at Hosparus for those families that would fall into that psychosocial or everything else category would be just general counseling support. They're going through a lot because their loved one is ill and dying, and they need somebody to talk to about that, somebody to support them. Sometimes it's concrete things like paperwork that they need done, such as do not resuscitate paperwork if they've made that decision, or advance directives. And those forms help the family do what they need to do for the patient when the patient can't make decisions for themselves, or if the patient knows very specifically what they want done or not done medically. We help with resources if the family is financially struggling and they need access to help with food stamps or a food pantry, or help with their insurance paperwork. As the social worker, I'm assessing and I'm searching for how can we help. Relieving whatever bit of stress that we can, bringing whatever support that they need, that's to me a big, big privilege. And once I learned about hospice care and once I learned about this type of support you can get, I just really feel passionate that everybody should have it. I consider it a privilege to be able to sit with a family in such a stressful, hard time. And also I think it's extra meaningful that there are people willing to do that who are not getting paid. I think we work very well together. I think we have an enormous amount of people who are extremely passionate and skilled and do a fabulous job. And so when they sit in on a meeting with us or they go to see a family that we're working with, generally, I think it would be a fabulous, wonderful learning experience. We would want them to feel a part of that team, to be a part of that team by whatever feedback they can give us about the family or whatever contribution they're making. But I think it's probably also important for them to know that because this work is so important and so amazing, it also is sometimes stressful. But it's amazing how we put our caregiving hats on and go into a home and do what we need to do, and I think they'll be inspired by seeing that. Show them you're really interested. This could be a huge crisis for this family, something that's really been wearing them all down. It could be that everybody providing that care, or the one person providing that care, has never done this before. This is the first time they've ever seen a person physically fade away from them, or administered meds round the clock, and then therefore are very tired from doing that. The burden of whatever is happening in this family and with this patient is not just on me. As we spread it around from CNA to nurse to doctor to social worker, chaplain, maybe bereavement counselor, all of these people are putting in a portion so that this heavy situation that the family's going through and the patient's going through, none of us have to carry it alone. It takes a village. You know, you need as many players as possible. So our volunteers, whatever they can bring, whenever they can bring it, it's just another person who cares, another hour of help.
Here on the inpatient unit, the volunteers look out for the family members as well as the patients whenever they're going in and out of the rooms. They will sit with patients at the end, and there's no one here, and they will help us out with that, and that brings a lot of comfort to us, just knowing that there's someone there at the bedside at those times. We have flowers that are brought in from a florist, and they are donated for the patients and the families, so they get all of the vases and fill them with water and make sure that every room has a vase of flowers in it. When we have any new patient that comes in, they get a prayer blanket, or a little blanket that goes over the foot of the bed, and those are made by volunteers, and they're very beautiful, and the families love it because then that's something they can keep. They take home and and they can kind of hold that as a keepsake. We have some people that come and play music. We have one lady that plays her harp, and she'll move to different areas of the unit and play so that everybody can hear it. We have the massage therapy, and he sees if there's any family members that need some stress relief, and he'll take some time with them. During the holidays, on Thanksgiving especially, the volunteers, they get together all of the supplies, the utensils, the food, everything that we need, and they have a dinner down here for all of the patients and families. Mainly sitting at the bedsides is a lot of what we need them to do, and they really are valuable to us for that. Without our volunteers, the staff would not be able to do their jobs as well. It just brings a lot of comfort to us, and we really appreciate that.
Well, at the inpatient care unit, one of my main things is to see that the patients stay hydrated. I go to each of the rooms and I get their water pitchers, see that they've got fresh water, fresh ice water, cups and straws. I also help feed the patients that are unable to take and feed themselves. I take in the break room. I see that we've got cups and sugar and salt, pepper, straws, fresh coffee, and I want to make sure that the families up at the inpatient unit have a fresh cup of coffee anytime that they go down to the break room. In the family room at the inpatient unit, I also take and straighten up, and I have gotten recently some new toys for the kids and some games, some new coloring books, and I enjoy every bit of it. I've been volunteering with Hosparus now. It'll be 14 years, February 28th. I want to be able to help. I do home visits, anything you need me to do. I said, I'm here to sit with your loved one while you go to the grocery, just whatever you got to do. If you want to get out, just get away. I said, that's what I'm here for. One of the reasons that I joined Hosparus was to be able to help people. Hosparus, they want you to enjoy your volunteer experience. And I have, and I've done that.
Our hospice volunteers, they help us greatly. They also provide such comfort and support. I can't stress enough the power of presence, the power of even touch. A lot of our patients in nursing homes are not able to verbally communicate. Just sitting there, holding their hand is so vitally important for hospice care when you're dealing with dementia patients. And in nursing homes, you will have a lot more of that than those that are able to verbalize with you. So I say to a new volunteer, don't take on trying to go in and save the world. You're there for that one individual and make that one individual visit as monumental as you can, and that is just being there. Sometimes reading to our residents, coloring, you sometimes would not believe, but if there's an artist in the house just doing something interactive like that, playing Scrabble with our patients. We have patients who love Scrabble or crossword puzzles. So there's a number of things our volunteers do at bedside. Our families feel more complete knowing that there is someone else there as well that has the same passion and care. I think it's so important to be people that give back. Be true to yourself. And realize that you're here as a support. That can be shown in the simplest forms. You don't have to do anything monumental other than just be there. Sometimes folks don't realize that your presence is so powerful, and having someone that has been trained and have a passion for caring for others to be at bedside is vitally important. Be there for that individual resident for that time period, and whatever time you spend with them is valuable time. We don't realize how impactful we are to people, and to find that other people care means monumental, especially when you have residents who have no families. And a lot of our families that we ask our volunteers to come, our hospice volunteers to come, is because they have no family connections, or their families are so distant that they can't get here. They're doing a wonderful thing, and their lives will be impacted in a very positive way because they're giving of themselves.
My mother had pancreatic cancer. We ended up contacting Hosparus. At the HICC unit was where I first came in contact with a volunteer. And that got my attention right away. And I saw people, patients there that didn't have people with them like my mom did, and that kind of bothered me a little bit. 3 or 4 months later, I looked into it and went to the classes and became a Hosparus volunteer. Friend, that's the word.
When you're a caregiver, they always tell you, oh, you're supposed to care for yourself. And, you know, everybody's always said that to me, so you can care for somebody else. But what does that look like, or how do you do that if you don't have somebody else, you know, to care for the person that you love so you can go care for yourself? So that's another gift that it's been. For 2 hours every Sunday, I either go do retail therapy or go to another part of the house and do something that I can't do, you know, can't leave Doug. Or last Sunday I went out and sat in the hot tub. So it's just been a great gift. And he's become like a friend and a family member, and has met family as they've come into town and stuff. And so it's been a gift, it really has.
It takes a few visits, just like when you meet somebody at work or anything like that. You're not friends right away, but we got to know each other. And Doug is a very sweet soul. I mean, he's a good guy, and I wish I've known him longer. The patients are treated like patients, and that's not what I'm here for. I'm just here to be his buddy.
When you become a Hosparus volunteer, the first thing I'd like you to know is how important you are. I don't think you have any idea of the power. I'm sure Bobby, when he was offering to be a volunteer, never knew, and I don't even know if he fully does realize what he means to Doug and I.
When I was becoming a volunteer for Hosparus, I think I had doubts that I could do it, and I would say don't doubt yourself. If you're that far along, you're probably in the right place, you know. And I think we're placed with people that we're supposed to be with.
I gave him DVDs of Doug, because Doug's a musician, and so they listened to his DVDs together, and then Bobby started bringing his computer every Sunday. He comes every Sunday and brings his computer and speakers and sets up, and so they have a little concert together.
He was in the band, and he loves music, and I do too, and that's how we connect a lot. So I feel like, you know, just go with the flow, and things will work out fine. Donna toots my horn a lot. She's very appreciative of everything.
Well, Bobby's been a little miracle, hasn't he, Doug? It's just been a miracle. It's been a gift from God.
I think I get more out of it than anybody here. I just get such a good feeling. I say, hey, Doug, how have you been this week? I missed you, my friend. And if he gives me a smile or something like that, I mean, there's no greater feeling.
My thank you message to Hosparus volunteers would be, you very selflessly give of your time and your talent to help patients and families at the end of life. By doing that, you not only help them, you help the team, you help our organization, you help our community, and we're all on this planet together, and we need to make it as good a place to live and die as possible.